Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. The story that everyone's been talking about the last 2 days, of course, is the drone attack on the Senate Palace building of the Kremlin. This happened early in the morning on May 3rd, and the debate online is, who did it? Was this a genuine Ukrainian drone attack or a Russian false flag operation? To know the truth, let's first ask the two parties involved, and President Zelensky has been pretty clear. We didn't attack Putin or Moscow. The Ukrainians are saying they didn't do it. Okay, what are the Russians saying? Kremlin blames the United States for attempted drone strike on Putin residents. The Russians are claiming that Ukraine carried out the attack and the United States was the mastermind to try and assassinate President Putin. What are the Americans saying? U.S. calls Russian claim that Washington was behind drone attack ludicrous. First of all, if the United States wanted to assassinate Putin, we have much better drones than those firecrackers that were used on May 3rd. But second of all, the United States doesn't want to assassinate Putin. Russia has 6,000 nuclear warheads. The United States doesn't want war with Russia. All the United States wants is for Russia to go back to their borders and stop attacking their neighbors. So what is the likely explanation for the drone attack on May 3rd? And according to the Institute for the Study of Warfare, Russia likely staged drone attack on Kremlin to mobilize domestic support for the war. The ISW suggests that the drone incident may be a false flag attack intended to justify increased mobilization measures rather than any sort of escalation. So for conspiracy theorists online, there's lots of good pictures and videos. There were actually 2 drones that flew into the Senate Palace building, and the first one occurred at 2:27 a.m. There's a giant clock for people to see in the video. And there's some weirdness about it. There were already 2 workers climbing the dome as if they were anticipating something and they needed to put a fire out. The second drone flew in from the east at 2:43 a.m. This one didn't really do any damage. So for people online who support Russia, they're genuinely confused. So this Twitter account, Russian Market, this is someone who supports Russia, and he tweeted, "Today, with all the surveillance in place, how could someone fly a drone over such a highly secured area twice?" And yes, that's a good question. He's so close to understanding what really happened. But how did 2 weaponized drones fly across the Russian capital city of Moscow and directly over the Kremlin unless Putin himself authorized the operation? In my opinion, that's the only way you could successfully get 2 drones across the city and attack the Senate Palace building. So here's an excellent post from Photo Wanderer. Here are 21 questions I would like to ask the Kremlin. Why was there a conclusion immediately drawn that it was Ukrainians? Why not Russian separatists or Russian partisans? Just because a drone was used to attack the Kremlin doesn't mean it's Ukraine. It could be any Russian unhappy with their government. Why was there not enough time to investigate before conclusions were released to the public? So this drone attack occurred at 3 a.m. in the morning. By 7 a.m., when all of the Kremlin state TV workers showed up, they already had a story to tell their people. Ukraine was behind it. The United States was the mastermind. This was an assassination attempt on Putin. Number 3, Ukraine denied the attack, which could have been a propaganda win for them. If Ukraine was behind it, why not admit it? This would be a huge propaganda win to say they're capable of flying drones over the Kremlin. Why assassinate Putin in the Kremlin? when he doesn't actually live there. So at 2 or 3 in the morning, Putin wasn't there. Putin doesn't live at the Kremlin. So if it was an assassination attempt, the people behind it were pretty dumb. Number 5, why has Russia been pushing a narrative of a drone attack before the event? So for weeks and months, Russia has been telling their people that drone attacks are possible, we need more air defense systems, the Kremlin, the capital city, everyone's at risk of drone attacks. Why did Russia release the footage if little damage was done? If it is an embarrassment and a failure of Russian air defense. So the Kremlin didn't have to release this video. They could have just kept it quiet, not acknowledging it ever happened, if it is, bad for them as far as how it looks. But if they release the footage, then that's because they wanted to. They wanted the Russian people to see this. Doesn't Russia have a history of false flag attacks? And how could a drone get through multiple layers of Russian air defense systems unless this was all planned by the Russians themselves? So you guys know my opinion at this point, 100%. I think this was a false flag attack. The question now is why? And initially I thought the plan was to cancel the May 9th Victory Day parade in Moscow. Russia might be looking for an excuse to cancel their own parade to avoid legitimate attacks on the day of. In addition, they might not feel confident they can pull off an error-free parade live to the world. Everyone in the world is going to be watching this parade to see if anything unusual happens. But I was wrong. The plan actually was for Russia to cancel their May 9th parades in every other city. Russia cancels May 9th celebrations in at least 21 cities. They already did this in Belgorod and cities on the border, but now they're just doing it across the country. They don't want people to protest. They don't want genuine partisan attacks on any May 9th celebrations. And who knows, maybe yes, Ukraine could have been responsible for an attack in one of these other cities. So what Russia is doing is they're pulling everything back to Moscow. Their best equipments, their veterans, their soldiers, for a perfect parade, they're hoping, on May 9th. Security in the city is going to be strict. Anything in the skies is going to get shot down. So they're hoping that they can pull off one flawless parade for television and then broadcast that across the country like nothing is going wrong for Russia. In addition, this false flag attack serves a purpose where they can now escalate, saying Ukraine is responsible for the escalation. Here's Margarita saying maybe now it will start for real, implying that for the last 15 months, Russia hasn't been trying to win this war. Russia's been, wearing the kid gloves, coddling Ukraine. I don't know what the implication is here. They're already targeting civilians and bombing cities indiscriminately. What more is Russia going to do? And of course, here's Dmitry Medvedev. There is no other choice than to eliminate Zelensky. So Dmitry Medvedev, the former president and prime minister of Russia, is calling for the assassination of President Zelensky. Why does the world continue to give a free pass to this mafia thug state? The Russian Federation under Putin should be treated like an absolute pariah, no differently than we treat North Korea. Cut off trade, cut off access to Western banks, deny visas, reduce diplomatic interactions to the bare minimum. If they want to live and behave like knuckle-dragging Neanderthals, let them, but the civilized world is not required to interact with Russia. So what have the Ukrainians actually been doing? They're trying to win a war, and attacking a flagpole over the Kremlin doesn't help them win a war. They want fuel depots. multiple Russian fuel depots hit by suspected drone attacks, tempo increasing. So, increasing Ukrainian attacks on fuel facilities in Russia and Crimea come ahead of a looming Ukrainian counteroffensive. This sounds like Ukraine is responsible. So, there's been so many attacks in the last couple days, I honestly can't keep track of them all. Let me quickly reference some of them. So, an oil depot on May 2nd was hit in Krasnodar. This is on the Russian side of the Kerch Strait Bridge. There's a video online of the oil depot fire from Krasnodar. I'll put the video in a pinned comment down below if you want to check it out. There was also an oil depot attack in Ilsiki. This is slightly east of the Kerch Strait Bridge into Russian territory. And there wasn't a lot of damage. It was just a single tank that was hit, but you can see from this satellite image still plenty of targets that Ukraine might go for in future drone attacks. The rest of this, I'm just going to quickly mention lots of unexplained fires and explosions in the occupied territories. There were explosions in Mariupol near Azovstal. Not entirely clear what was hit. There was an explosion in Mospin, which is southeast of the city of Donetsk. Once again, unclear what exactly was hit. There was a massive fire at an oil terminal in Taman, more than likely a Ukrainian drone strike. There was an explosion in the Kursk region of Russia, an unexplained fire, unclear what caused it. Another train was derailed, this time in Bryansk. Last week, somebody put an IED on the train track, and when the train went over it, it detonated. Russia has a serious problem if there are partisans in the country willing to conduct these train attacks. There's just way too many rail lines to watch and protect them all. Russia's Achilles heel is their rail network. If they can't effectively move stuff by rail, they're in serious trouble. And here's a military conscription office in Valdai on fire. I'm guessing somebody got their conscription notice and wasn't too happy. So Ukraine is trying to win the war. That is the focus of all of their attacks. Meanwhile, the Russians continue to indiscriminately target civilians. Ukraine downs 18 drones on May 4th. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that Russian forces launched 24 Iranian Shahed drones. 18 were successfully intercepted, but 6 did hit their targets. And this is the sad story I have to report to you. The city of Kherson has been shelled mercilessly by the Russians. This is a city that Russia claims is a Russian city, full of civilians that Russia claims are Russian citizens, yet they're purposely bombing gas stations, train stations, and supermarkets to cause mass panic and terror. According to Prokudin, Russian forces shelled Kherson Oblast 98 times over the past 24 hours, firing 539 shells from heavy artillery, grads, tanks, drones, and aviation. These are not 539 shells to defeat the Ukrainian military. They're just indiscriminately bombing the city. They're using their limited time and limited resources just to kill as many civilians trying to do their grocery shopping. I can't share the pictures and videos online. They're all over Twitter. People laying dead in a supermarket after Russia shelled them. One may feel tired of the news of the daily terrorism committed by the Russians. That is reality Ukrainians have never chosen but are currently living in. Today, Russians killed 3 more people by shelling a hypermarket in Kherson. Please don't look away. And here's a story of Ukraine's resiliency. A train station was bombed, a train car was bombed, and the train station decided to get the train going, to complete the routes. So the damaged car was disconnected and the passengers were moved all within 14 minutes. The train was welcomed with applause as it arrived on schedule to the city of Lviv, the other side of the country. So these are residents of the city of Lviv coming to the train station to welcome the residents coming from Kherson. For a report on the ground in the capital city of Kyiv, I want to introduce you to a new character. This is a British citizen. His name is John Sweeney. He's the author of 15 different books, and he really does not like Vladimir Putin. And for the last year, he's been spending a lot of time in Ukraine, doing a war diary and talking to locals. I want to share with you his war diary from yesterday.
War diary day 434 of Russia's war against Ukraine. I'm just back in Kyiv. There's KFC in Krasnodar just behind me. And as my train was pulling in, there were reports of Russian missile attacks and sound of small fire. That's the Ukrainians firing at Russian missiles, Russian drones, and explosions. And yet, I mean, look around. Life goes on. There's some young people listening to a boomboxer guy down there, and life goes on. For me, I'm going to get myself to a basement. But it's also a bar, because it's, never mind what Vladimir Putin and his not so merry men get up to, it's drink o'clock in Kyiv. Love to you all. Oh, and Vladimir Putin, do fuck off.
Life in the capital city of Kyiv goes on. But there was a scary moment yesterday. A Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2 was shot down over Kyiv by friendly forces. So, dramatic imagery of a familiar-looking drone downed by a surface-to-air missile. This happened in broad daylight. I'll link the video down below if you want to see it. And initially, people thought this was a Russian drone being shot down. But eventually, the Ukrainian Air Force put out a statement saying that they lost control of the Bayraktar TB2. It started flying over the capital city of Kyiv, and they made a decision to shoot it down rather than potentially it crashing on its own. It happens. So what has President Zelensky been up to? And Zelensky meets with the Dutch and Belgian prime ministers, signing a joint declaration. These are some very tall men. And there was kind of a transfer ceremony. The Netherlands has promised a Patriot air defense system. The one from Germany and the United States has already arrived, so I'm guessing this one coming from the Netherlands will also arrive soon. President Zelensky also used this opportunity to go to The Hague. I believe this is in the Netherlands. And he gave a speech and couldn't help himself but crack a joke. Let me share this with you.
Of course, we all want to see different Vladimir here in The Hague. The one who deserves to be sentenced for these criminal actions.
Why, yes, we all would love to see a different Vladimir making an appearance at The Hague. Let's go ahead and check in with the Ukrainian defenders on the front lines, and the city of Bakhmut continues to hold. Not really. But this is pretty interesting, because a couple weeks ago, Putin ordered Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu to capture 100% of the city by May 9th. Putin wanted a propaganda victory to tell the Russian people during the parade, hey, we captured the city of Bakhmut. But if Ukrainian forces can just hold on to this section of the city for 4 more days, then Putin can't even claim to have captured Bakhmut by May 9th. I think Ukraine can hold on to this part of the city for a couple more days. And they might be receiving help from the Wagner Group. Russia's Wagner boss threatens Bakhmut pullout in Ukraine. So Prigozhin every day now is releasing videos and interviews complaining about the regular Russian military. And this video, I'll link it down below, is probably his strongest language sense. So I'm going to show you just a little bit, because in the background there's some things I can't show on YouTube, but let me show you how fired up Prigozhin currently is.
Это чьи-то, отцы и чьи-то сыновья, и те, которые не дают нам боеприпасы, будут в аду жрать их потроха, У нас нехватка боеприпасов 70%. Шойгу! Герасимов! Где боеприпасы?
Yeah, you get the idea. He released that video last night, and then this morning released another video. This one is 5 minutes long. Prigozhin declares in this video that he will be ordering the withdrawal of Wagner mercenaries from Bakhmut due to an acute shortage of ammunition allegedly ordered by the Russian General Staff. So Igor's got a good breakdown here. The target audience of Prigozhin's speech appears to be the Russian public, and it's an ominous one. We will be waiting until we are again needed by the people of Russia. I think that's about to happen. It's intentionally ambiguous to not exclude an insurrection against the current Russian government. His theme throughout this, it's a 5-minute video, I'll link it down below, is that I, Prigozhin, am not a traitor to the motherland. I am a hero of the people. It's Shoigu and Gerasimov who do not deserve to be in their positions. Who put them there? Putin. So Prigozhin says that the Wagner Group is going to pull out of Bakhmut on May 10th so as not to rob the people of their pride for the May 9th Soviet Victory Day parade. This is all the prelude for the coming civil war in Russia. I've been stating this on my channel that this is the inevitable conclusion. This is going to be a frightening and scary time should the Russian Federation collapse and dissolve, and then all of these new countries have nuclear weapons. But all of the major players are getting ready for it. They don't believe that Russia's going to win this war. They're going to retreat back to their own borders and then fight over the borders of the new countries after Russia dissolves. It's going to happen. More bad news for Russia. A flatbed truck carrying ammunition collided with a fuel truck on the highway. Nothing exploded, nothing went boom, but this is something. Look at how they transport artillery ammunition. Wooden crates stacked up on a flatbed truck with nothing palletized, shrink-wrapped, or tied down. Russia is something else. Here's another traffic accident. This is an Iskander missile truck that just collided with a barrier on a highway. This truck looks pretty nice, so I'm guessing this was probably meant to go to Moscow for the May 9th parade. Here's a crazy headline. Russian lawmaker calls for a squadron of eagles to protect the Kremlin. As the fallout from Wednesday morning's apparent drone strike on the Kremlin continued to dominate the Russian news cycle, the deputy chairman of the State Duma Defense Committee made an unusual call for a squadron of Eagle interceptors. Eagle is not code name for a drone or a plane. He wants actual birds to fight drones flying over Moscow. Let's talk about good news for Ukraine. And the United States announced their next $300 million security assistance package. The usual good stuff in here, but I'm always excited to see more TOW missiles heading to Ukraine. They're going to be useful. Good news from New Zealand. New Zealand will allocate $3.1 million to humanitarian initiatives. In addition, increase the deployment of 95 instructors to help train Ukrainian soldiers in the UK. New Zealand will also introduce new sanctions against certain Russian companies and individuals. Thank you so much, New Zealand. Final couple of feel-good clips I have for you. The first one is of which. Here on the channel, back in December and January, I shared many clips of which as she was stationed in Bakhmut. But she rotated out, I believe, in February, and for the last couple months, she's been training soldiers for the upcoming counteroffensive. She doesn't post on social media as much, but she wanted to share this clip today, praising her logistics team.
Слава Україні! Сьогодні хочу поділитися своїми позитивними емоціями щодо того, як працюють сили логістики Збройних сил України, бо це дійсно неймовірне враження. Ні для кого не секрет, що повертаючись з бойових на відновлення, у нас завжди ціла купа побитої, поламаної зброї, яка постраждала від прильотів, яка спрацьована, яку треба знову ж таки повертати до бою. І в цьому нам надають підтримку сили логістики. Сам момент просто треба бачити і розуміти, що поки ми ще здаємо зброю на ремонт, її вже починають ремонтувати. Ми привозимо просто щось, що нагадує зброю здалеку, а отримуємо, знову ж таки, поремонтовану, приведену до бою, відстріляну готову зброю, яка може одразу заступати на чергування. Один з таких випадків, один з кулеметів, дуже важливих родних кулеметів, ми привезли, він був пошкоджений уламками, і там залишився тільки шматочок ствольної коробки, ударно-спусковий механізм і спалений.
As you can see, Witch is doing well. For those who don't know her, Witch is her call sign. Final clip I have for you is some Ukrainian sappers just having some fun. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.